I realized in all the spaces that I was in, I was always the only woman of color, the only woman, and the only woman of Caribbean descent, just the only in all the spaces. I had to wear my resilience all of the time. And it was exhausting. Being a Black woman in these spaces is from pet to threat. Is someone, in this case, a women of color who come in, get molded by folks that, might not look like them. They're doing a good job. They're doing all the things. They're great employees. But when they start excelling, they start doing things that are above and beyond the norm, that's when you're the threat. And that's when you see things like the aggression or the layoffs, right? You're the first one on the list, or, feeling like opportunities are being taken away.
Welcome, how are you?
I'm doing well, Lexi. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you for being here. Before we get started, I do want to honor the red lip. I love a red lip, and I especially love a red lip on a dark-skinned woman.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. It's Fenty.
Love a red lip. So you're doing great things. Love a red lip. So where are your people from?
My people come from the amazing country of Panama. So my mother and father are from Panama, so they're immigrants. I'm a first-generation American. Was born in Miami and then moved to New York at a very young age. So I am a certified Brooklynite, Afro-Caribbean woman. So yeah, that's kind of like where my family comes from. So my family, my mother's side of the family immigrated to Panama to build the Panama Canal. So they came from the Caribbean islands. They came from Jamaica, Barbados to build the canal. So yeah, that's a fun fact. So every time we go back, my mom is always like, my grandfather helped build this amazing canal. So it's a nice history for us.
I love your story in some aspects of it being very Caribbean, like coming from the Caribbean, and then you hit the two markets, Miami and New York. And for folks who don't know, when you are from the Caribbean and you immigrate to America, Miami and New York's the hub.
It's always Miami, New York, I would say LA too. Like those are like the three hubs, but for sure, Miami and New York are like the spots. So I feel like I'm very, very, very Caribbean. Rice and peas, curry chicken, chicken, that's what we grew up with. And then also, the Panamanian side, which is, the Afro-Latina side. So arroz con pollo, like all the things. I'm just a big melting pot of Afro, and I love it.
So we're going to talk about resilience, and people talk about resilience all the time. I want to talk with you because your story on the internet is just so intriguing. I like to call it quiet resilience. And what I mean by that is you clearly have developed the skill of resilience, which usually comes from being knocked down a couple times and having to learn how to get back up. And we're excited to explore that with you. But also when you don't have to be resilient.
Yeah.
And how do you opt in and opt out to that for your own personal, mental, and emotional benefit? Do you remember one of the earliest times in your career where you were like, whoa, I need to get up on this resilience game in order for me to succeed in this?
Yeah, I think for me, it was way early on because, in my industry in technology, I'm the VP of marketing for a tech organization, global tech organization. We work with customers all around the world to help them with their technology services. So with me, it was early on because I realized not only in all the spaces that I was in, I was always the only woman of color, the only woman, and the only woman of Caribbean descent, just the only in all the spaces. And I had to go through therapy for a bit for it, right? Because I realized that for me, I had to wear my resilience all of the time. And it was exhausting, especially in spaces that don't look like you, where you had to operate differently all of the time. Live to expectations of others that associate, have biases associated with it as well. Spaces where I couldn't even wear my hair in braids because it was something that was looked down on. I remember someone asking me, hey, when you wear your hair like that in braids, you look angry. And I'm like, well, that's part of me. So I don't understand how that makes me look angry. So my resilience was built a very, very long time ago because I had to in order to operate just day to day. And it's still a journey. It doesn't, and especially in this political climate where we're seeing a lot of things shift for people who look like us, you have to wear that even stronger.
Tell me about the therapy conversations that you were having that you just mentioned, because you said something very poignant. You said going to therapy, navigating this resilience thing, which I think that we can both agree, resilience is not something that is fun to develop. It usually comes, some of the most resilient people have gone through some of the craziest stuff in the world. And the reason why they're standing there talking to you in the first place is because of the resilience they have built over time.
Just talking through that has helped me because I realized that I'm very authentic to myself. So operating in that authenticity was a downfall in some points for me. So I needed to talk through that. And one of the terms that I've heard is going from being a Black woman in these spaces is from pet to threat, right? I don't know if you've heard of that before.
I have not heard of that before, but girl, I'm visualizing. Go ahead. This makes total sense to me.
A pet to threat is someone, in this case, a women of color who come in, get molded by folks that, might not look like them. They're doing a good job. They're doing all the things. They're great employees. But when they start excelling, right, and they start doing things that are above and beyond the norm, that's when you're the threat. And that's when you see things like the aggression or the layoffs, right? You're the first one on the list, or, feeling like opportunities are being taken away. So I realize, in speaking to a lot of my friends that are also in technology, that we all have similar stories when it comes to that. And I think, as women of color, resilience is built when situations like that come. In learning and in therapy, that is one of the things that I'm very conscious of in all the spaces that I'm in, is just being intentional with being authentic, but then also realizing that you can be a threat. Even being authentic and being you and shining bright, right? So I'm hyper aware of those things, and I'm still walking through it because it still gives me a lot of anxiety.
I love that terminology, pet to threat. I've never had language until this moment to use to discuss my experience with that. And that's very real. As another Black girl who also works in tech, I distinctly, one of my biggest memories of that was I had this guy who was a mentor of mine, actually became a manager. I would argue helped save me from a layoff, because when he met me, my manager, now that I'm older and more mature and can look back, I think that the person who managed me just wasn't a really good new college grad manager, which, as you know, is different. Managing a person who has not adulted yet is different than managing a senior director. And so he noticed that, and he mentored me, and he helped me, and he even figured out a way that I could go work for him. And within a year, he just stopped talking to me. Like, he would see me in the hallway. I report to him, and he would see me in the hallway and not talk to me. And until you said that, I was like, I think that's what happened.
It is what it is. We just have to know, as people of color, like that's something, especially when you're operating in spaces that don't look like you. That's one of the terms that I've learned, like, your pet to threat. So yeah, it's rough. And, for me, last year, and I posted about this, I'm very candid on social media. I share my stories. I am very I share. Last year for me was one of those defining moments where resilience was key for me to even be where I am at today, because in my last organization, I was everywhere. They sent me all over the place, every stage to speak. And I was the only Black woman at that organization to do that. And, things changed. I was really overworked.
So what does resilience look like to you? How does it show up?
Yeah, so resilience to me means when things don't go your way, or when you're shut down or pushed back or not included or not seen or heard, you push back through that. And you remind yourself, at least for me, I belong here. The seat was for me. I worked hard to be here. And no matter what the external talks are or what anyone will say, these spaces and the spaces that I created for myself, I deserve to be here. And I think it's all the way that you think, and it's all the way what you say to yourself. One of the things, I love Michelle Obama. In one of her books is, she talked about negative self-talk and building through that. And for me, I've learned, and naming it. So for me, I've learned anytime I have, faced anything that is adverse or rough, I turn the negative self-talk off and just push back with it with grit and with, determination. And that's the only thing that I think has made me get to where I'm at today, to be an award winner in my industry, to be recognized, to be sitting on boards, to be president of Alliance to Channel Women, one of the largest organizations in technology, is because I'm able to just shut things down and just use the grit and the energy of resilience that my parents instilled in me, coming in here as Caribbean, first generation immigrants with nothing, to push forward in every opportunity.
So now we're going to pivot a little bit, and I want to talk about the downside of that grit. And I'm going to speak for myself first because I want to hear your experience in that. My parents, being a product of enslaved Africans in this country, growing up in the South, I was raised to be strong. I was raised to get back up. I was raised to work 3 times as hard to get what I want. And I'm assuming that you probably had a very similar upbringing. It's hard out here in these streets. And so if you want the prize, however you define that prize, you have to work for it. I'm now in this era of my life of not saying no to that work and to that hustle and to that grit, but really trying to navigate when I need to put it there and when I don't, and when I could opt into softness and when I can opt into being like, I actually just don't feel like doing that. Because I do think that there is a balance, or at least that's what my therapist says, and I'm actively trying to figure that out. Have you experienced that now that you have accomplished so many things? You have done the work. You continue to do the work. Are you actively trying to find those places where maybe you don't need to grit? Is that a thing that you navigate?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's one of the reasons that even though I had an amazing opportunity last year, I walked away from because I was away from my family, right? And I was traveling all the time, and I was operating in a space where I was burnt out. And, I'm a mom of 2 boys, Leon and Ethan. They're 11 and 6, and my husband, Leon, who was a former Marine. So we were all over the world. And I had to learn to step away and say, I'm not feeling well. I'm tired. My body's talking to me. And as women of color, you have to pay attention to your body and to your mind, especially when you're operating those grit spaces and knowing when to stop. Because to your point, we're taught to keep going, be strong, take it. You got to keep going. But it literally ends to you getting sick, to cancer, to all kinds of things, right? So listening to your body, for me, that was I need to stop. I need to grit can go away for now. I need a break. I need a vacation. I need just pause. So
I love that. And I love how you called the action out to women of color. But I think particularly Black women is, I semi-joke with people that I'm like, oh, my great ancestor already did that, so I don't have to. She laid the path, so I do not have to. And I think right now what I'm, again, trying to figure it out in real time is, even though I can, do I/should I?
You should not. You need to, our ancestors, even though your ancestors and mine were dropped, they all came from the same place, just dropped different locations, right? Mine was just dropped in Panama and in the Caribbean, and yours here, right?
Y'all had the layover on the boat.
And people forget that, right? We all had layovers in the Americas. Yeah. So mine made a different pit stop. So, you know, our ancestors, my goodness, they went through, oh my gosh, tremendous things. But it doesn't mean that those struggles are not there, just different ways, right? And we're seeing it now in society within America with things being rolled back, like DE&I spaces for people of color to be seen, heard, and valued is just getting rolled back. So it's another form of things that we have to accomplish as people, just in a different way. It's just not physical, right? Like slavery. But I think that is even more extreme now because it's mental. It's a different battle.
How do you feel about these rollbacks on DEI?
Oh, it hurts my heart because, especially in technology, since I'm in that space, I was, you know, a big proponent alongside other thought leaders. I'm going to shout them out: exposure, inclusion, and diversity, and others, Black leaders within technology. We did so much within those 5 years of George Floyd, you know, through COVID. We implemented policies in our industry. We've held conversations on stage, uncomfortable spaces, community spaces, and I feel like our white brothers and sisters don't care anymore. And it's like, what's going on? They don't care. So I'm learning to protect my peace in this moment.
Ooh, yes. I agree with you on the sentiment of how devastating and very hurtful these rollbacks are. I've also told people, you know, I remember working in tech when there wasn't DEI. And I distinctly remember before there were ERGs. And the Black folks, we found each other in the cafeteria. And so I'm not saying that I like that. Like, I like having non-funded community over funded community. But what I am saying, and I want people who are affected by these DEI rollbacks to understand, is that there is no check from your job that will stop you from communitying and will stop you from freedom fighting. Because community building and community interaction has been our survival and our lifeline since the beginning of time. And so I'm actively reminding people over and over again, here are the things that we can control and here are the things that we can't. And the stuff that we can't is shitty and it sucks and it hurts. But remember that your magic is not in that. Because the Underground Railroad was not built on a DEI budget.
Oh, it definitely was not. Right. You know, we go through what we go through, but then I have my girlfriends that I call and we cry, right? And we let it out. And I have my board of directors of friends that I know, and I'm like, listen, that's when we talk, right? So it's important to have those spaces where we could do that, because if not, it leads to burnout. Like, it leads to just, yeah, you can't, it's crazy. So I pray for our country, but I think as people of color, we need to just protect our peace in this moment and just ride the wave. Let it do its thing, and we're just, okay, business as usual.
Earlier in our talk, you said something very poignant that I did want to readdress. You said, I have been the only in many rooms. And I think sometimes we glorify the first person who did this and the first person who did that. And we don't really take a second and sit back and discuss the hardship of being the first and being the only. And I can imagine that maybe a lot of your resilience stems from that. Tell me about the emotions, the toll of being the only.
Oh, gosh. That is such a good question. It is very hard. I am the first president of the Alliance of Channel Women of Color. And Akila Morel, who's my VP, is also the first Black woman VP for that organization as well in its history in our industry. So being the first from that capacity has been rewarding, because I think other women of color have come up to us and say, hey, like, I had no idea that I could do that. Like, I totally could be president of ACW. Yes. Well, you made that path for me, and now I can work towards it, right? So I think for me, in all the spaces that I've been in, that is what I have in my mind is, even though it's so hard, I know there's somebody else who looks like me, who's looking and watching. And I know that I never had that. I never had someone that I'm like, okay, they're in a role, they're in a position, or they're doing things that I want to do. So I'm going to trailblaze so that those folks that are behind me can have that, because I think that's so important. And I think every trailblazer, anyone who's the only in a room, that's one of the most powerful things that we can do as people is doing the things we're doing because we know that there's people behind us looking. That is why I do what I do. And I know that it's mentally taxing to be a trailblazer, to be the only at all times. But I think for me, that's what I think. That's my focus. That's my North Star, is I'm doing it because I know there's other people watching. And I just, we got to do it for the culture.
Always. Y'all know I'm not out here in these streets just for me, okay? Okay.
Yeah, we cannot have that thought process as a community. We cannot. We have to always think about how can we create spaces for other people who don't have it when we get to spaces of opportunity. So that is always a thought in my mind, and will always continue to be in every room that I'm in. And I'm always the only. I'm in boardrooms with heads of AT&T, like big names, right? And in any opportunity that I get, I always think of like, okay, how can I bring somebody else who might not have access to these rooms here?
Tell me about this organization that you are the leader of, AWC, is that correct?
So Alliance, so I'm a VP of marketing. That's my day job. That's what I do, VP of marketing. And then Alliance of Channel Women, ACW, is an organization within our technology channel space, which is a very niche area in technology. I lead the organization. There's thousands of women all across the United States who are part of this organization, and we mentor one another. We network. We have local chapters all across the United States, and women get together to teach one another of different things within tech. And it's just a really good organization that helps women connect, like how guys do it all the time in the what is it called, Gulf. We do it for our organization and our local chapters. So it's a good organization for networking and just mentorship in technology.
Well, thank you so much for doing that, because I do think that we need those spaces. Many times when you are the only, right? Once the day ends, once the meeting is over, if you're the only one, then you can't actually connect with the other woman in the room because you're the only person. And so to have that community and also make it cross country, and it sounds like make it across organizations, is also important.
Oh yeah, so we are all over. We have sponsors. We have global sponsors like 𝐶𝐿 Communication. So many different folks. So, and then we meet in Vegas once a year, and we have like our big annual event. So we have over 500 women plus that come to hear what we do here at Alliance of Channel Women, to network. We had 𝐬𝐮𝐬𝐫𝐿 from Peloton, who was our last keynote speaker in Vegas. So yeah, we're doing great things with ACW. It is my last year as president, and it's bittersweet. But I know that 𝐿KEELA and we accomplished so much as the first 2 Black women to ever lead that organization, and I just hope that it continues to move forward, and that more women of color can join and one day be president and VP as well in the future.
So sis, reintroduce yourself to us. Who are you?
Yes. So I am Mayka Rosales Peterson. I am a mom. I am a wife. I am a friend. I am a connector. I was former Miss Panama USA. So I
didn't know that. Okay.
It was always a fun fact. People always want to dive deep. Who did you do there? And I'm a trailblazer, and I'm a community builder. And I know there's going to be many other women, many other Black women that are going to be trailblazing, and we're just here to support one another.
Thank you for being here.